Hello, everybody. I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Startup CPG. I am so excited to have one of our favorite partners for the community here, which is Belmark. And the reason that we partner with them is that long ago, I just kept hearing from the people who I think know the most in the community. If you are looking at pouches, go talk to Belmark. They came so highly recommended over and over again. And then we were able to get to know them and bring so much of this education and opportunity into the community. I love that they have been so active in our Slack channel now for years, which is great. That's what we want. The Slack is supposed to be a place for all of the brands to get help right away when they need it. And it's so awesome that we have the subject matter experts from Belmark in there ready to help brands when they're very small, like you guys who are here thinking about launching a product. They're here to help you. But also, when you are national at Whole Foods and Target and Walmart, they're going to be there to scale with you because they have the wide range of technology. So I'm really pumped to have them here. So, Jeff, maybe just to get us started, it's so cool to have you here. Do you mind giving everybody a little bit of a background about Jeff and Belmark?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Daniel. Again, I'm Jeff Dowd. I am the Vice President of Sales here at Belmark. I've been in the industry about 40 years, and the last 30 of which I've been at Belmark. And originally we were a label supplier, still are, pressure sensitive labels supplied to the industry. And back in '96, we were launching into the flexible packaging realm, and that was my background. Came to kind of start that business, and kind of grown with the company, and now kind of head all the areas of customer experience. So our job is to help you grow your business and hopefully grow it more profitably. We intentionally try to do business with what we call the insurgents, the people who are coming up with new products, and by their efforts, by your hard work, you end up changing the industry. Everybody starts off small with the hope of getting bigger, and our job is to make that easy for you to scale to those new sizes.
All right. Jeff, 30 years with Belmark. That's an amazing tenure. Can you just tell me about a little bit like what are pouches and Belmark? What's the association? What is like how I associate them like as one? Like what has that been like for you over the course of your career as well?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. When we got into flexible packaging, it was our label customers saying, "Hey, if you could do for us in flexible packaging what you do for us in labels." And what they meant by that is fast turnarounds, no minimums, none of the things that the industry kind of puts on that restricts your growth. Don't apply that to our customers, and allow them to get what they need when they need it, so they can grow the business without the two things that kill business: having a bunch of obsolescence you have to throw away, or not having the packaging you need when you need it. And so with short lead times, no minimums, we've been able to help a lot of companies scale. And the neat thing about stand-up pouches is you can buy one of them or you can buy millions of them. And probably more than any other packaging type, they scale really, really well from that.
Yeah, because you guys are well known, obviously, labels and cartons,
Yep.
pouches. That's very cool. So, like, obviously, a bit more complex the technology, I think, to be able to do all that stuff on pouches. But pouches are so prevalent these days. So, first, maybe can we just talk a little bit about like what are pouches
Yeah.
and like what are they best suited for? What kind of brands should consider and choose pouches?
Yeah, and so I'm going to just grab some samples as I talk. So mostly what we're talking about is a stand-up pouch that can be displayed standing up, obviously, or hang from a peg hole. Either way. And what's nice about that is you can go in all different formats, and your package is always looking good. It is always up, standing up. It's ready to be sewn. Your graphics are visible. I just bought a bunch of pouches. I went to the store for 10 minutes yesterday and probably ended up with 20 pouches. Not necessarily related to Belmark. Some of them maybe, some of them aren't. But my idea was, why are they so popular is they do have a very nice footprint, so you can see exactly what the brand owner is trying to communicate. Now, I go back to even 1996 when I started. Stand-up pouches were not all that prevalent. They've existed since the 1960s, but we're pretty slow to take over, particularly in the States. The States always seems to be a little bit behind Japan and Europe on packaging format changes. Could be because of our size makes it harder. But in the 90s, it was the big brands, the big items that went to stand-up pouches first. And my recollection, the industry that changed the fastest was pet treats. And you could find pet treats all over the place. They went from a box that either didn't keep the freshness of the product or had a bag inside. So now you're putting a bag and then you're sticking it in a box to keep the freshness alive. And they switched to a stand-up pouch. The problem at the time is they were forming those pouches at the same time they were filling them. A lot of capital, a lot of space. And the changeover time, if you wanted to change size bags, was just devastating. It might take a shift or longer to go from one size pouch to the other. So none of that fits a startup company, right? Fast forward, and how do we bring that technology that's showing so much better in the store to insurgent brands? And the answer was pre-make the pouches for them, leave the top open, let them fill them, seal them, and then somebody who's selling 1,000 bags a year can look identical to the big brands, and they can differentiate themselves with the graphics or the features they put on the pouch.
So in my head, like maybe historically, then some of the other options that would have been more common, like cartons, right? I think that's what you're basically like a box, like a cereal box with like a bag inside to preserve the freshness, like the cereal we all kind of ate growing up, right? And then, yeah, go ahead.
Pouches existed, but pretty much they were a flat pouch that either you tried to get to stand up one behind the other, or you laid down on the store and you had to look down at them.
Almost like a mailer.
And then they get turned upside down. And if it was a pre-made pouch, quite often it would be like this one, where the graphics weren't even printed. It was a label on top of that pouch. So it was really readily apparent, not only to the consumer, but the store buyers, that you're on a different playing field than the big brands that were dominating the store.
It's super interesting to me. I think maybe because I worked in candy also, it just feels like that was such an obvious format for them to really adopt quickly as well. We know that they are fans of like lay down bags, obviously around Halloween. That's a huge part of their market, but the shareable stuff, the multi-unit, like, bridging from like immediate consumption from bars to something bigger, like stand-up pouches and hanging pouches was the only way for them to go.
Yeah, so if you look at a package, no matter what it is, it's got a few jobs. But the most important thing it does is get you to pick it up the first time. No, it's got to protect the product. It's got to keep it fresh. But it's somehow, as somebody's walking down the aisle, it's got to say, hey, I should try that. And it's interesting. I had 20 pouches on my desk all day long. People coming to my office, picking up pouches and looking at them and making comments about them, because that's exactly what they do. They attract you that first time. And then if you have a good experience, their job is to remind you of the good experience so you buy it again. So when you're laying down, it's really hard to make that impact. But when you're standing up, and it's not only standing up in the store aisle, but it's in your refrigerator and your pantry as well. Keep that reminder of the brand experience with the consumer.
Well, I just want to lay down and eat a whole bag of those Evie's Texas pecans because they look so good. But I agree. It's a really nice canvas for a brand to have the best possible presentation that just like jumps out at you. It does a lot of the hard work that otherwise like you might have to get a display or something else to do for you. Can you tell me a little bit about the composition of a pouch? So if I'm looking at it, like what are some of these elements? So like, there's the seam that you have at some like kind of close up to the top that it seems like all of these examples, they all do kind of have that. I don't know what you call it, but.
Yeah, so you're starting off with the side seal. Well, let's start off with the gusset. The gusset's really key because it's creating extra volume. So you can get more product in the package with less volume. So if this was
Tell me what a gusset is.
a
Sorry.
gusset, it's the bottom of the bag
Uh
that's
huh.
giving it the 3 dimension, also allows it to stand up.
Uh huh.
Now, as opposed to like a jerky package, um, really 2 dimensional. So with less packaging, you can get bigger space. Maybe in the last 5 years, you may have noticed that in the shredded cheese section that used to be a bag like that jerky bag, but now it has a gusset in it because I think they're using about a third less plastic for the same volume of food. So that gusset is really important. It's creating the stand up, but it's also increasing the volume.
Oh, that's so interesting. And probably it's a little bit about where is this designed to be merchandised? Where, like,
Yes.
okay, yeah, a lot of the shredded cheese is going to hang on one of those hooks. And probably that jerky also, you typically see it by the checkout all hanging up. Whereas a lot of these products we're looking at now, I mean, they could do both. Like you do have the hole in it, but also a lot of them are going to sit on shelf, right?
Yeah. And a lot of shredded cheese used to be on hooks. They now have shelves there because it's easier for the store to put the older product up front that way. They can just slide it front and put the newer product behind it. So you keep that freshness cycle going.
Oh, that's
Really
so
important
interesting.
on a product that has a short shelf life. Most products have a little bit longer uh, shelf stability where not only the shelf life is good, but the shelf quality stays good. But you get
Hmm.
to those other ones, you want to make that very easy to rotate that inventory.
I was just I was just thinking about how when I was a kid and we didn't have phones and I would just be eating my cereal and probably at that time I liked having all that huge carton because I what else did I have to do besides like read all of the cereal box? But today I don't need it because I have my phone and there's way better stuff on my phone than just what you have to read on the cereal box. But I'm sure I read the Frosted Flakes stuff like 5 or 10 times. Okay, so back to the pouch and some of the other elements. Okay, so like if you look at the Ava's Pet Palace, shout out, we love Ava's. I see a window there also. So some
Yes.
brands would choose that. Some others, I imagine it's a aesthetic, but also there may be some kind of implication around the product preservation as
Absolutely.
well.
Every product has, or most products have something that make them go bad. And the two most common elements that make things go bad are moisture and oxygen. And there's different ways to get barriers from that. But I'm going to pick on a potato chip because potato chip, you add light into that. So almost every potato chip bag you see has some kind of metallized element to it, whether they have white ink over it or not. They have metal in there because it is a very inexpensive moisture barrier, very inexpensive oxygen barrier, but it also provides that light barrier. Now we can get oxygen and moisture other ways, and we can do it in a clear pouch, like you see on the Avas or on these little freeze-dried dog treats. Um, it's using it's knowing what the product is, knowing what makes it go bad. Um, we can design those barriers in place to keep that product nice and fresh.
Okay, and then from a design perspective, like when I look at the EVs, for example, and
Yes.
the Funkin' Good, like they look so modern. Like not just the actual design of it, but just the quality of it is very high quality. I'm sure it wasn't always even that way with pouches with like earlier printing technology and everything. Can you tell me a little bit about like how has the options for using pouches and like the capabilities and the quality of the print and the digital print and all that stuff evolved and continues to evolve?
Yeah, I'm going to go way back. In order to get really nice printing in, let's say, the 80s and the 90s, it was all rotogravure. And so now you're buying expensive metal cylinders for each color that you're printing. And you better not change it because if you change an ingredient, you have to change at least one of those cylinders, right? Only designed for long run. Pretty much pretty rare today in the United States. The next thing is flexographic printing, which handles most of the larger volume printing today, and the technological advances to that. It's really hard to tell the difference between flexographic printing, rotogravure printing, or really what's changed the game, especially for insurgents, digital printing is the latest entry in, and very difficult to see how the image is different from one to the other, but they're very alive. You get such detail in the product today, and you think about the hardest things to print. A block of white cheese or or vanilla ice cream. There's just not a lot of color in there to create the texture. All the printing techniques do a great job today to create that real life. Uh, right. You look at the Eevees, and you're right. Those pecans look good enough to eat right now. Um,
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm looking at the jewels design also, and it looks just very premium. And it just, it just makes me think like what other kind of packaging could make something like that look that premium? It's
yeah,
kind of hard to imagine.
yeah. One of the big uh, changes over the last 10 years in packaging. It used to be just visuals, and now we're bringing more senses in. It's the touch. So if you were picking up that package right now, it has what we call a soft touch on it. And a soft touch does two. You pick it up, it's very supple. On the other hand, it kind of mutes the colors a little bit. So it is creating a matte effect. So you'll see a lot of customers, and I don't know if we're catching it there. This one here has a soft touch in the background, but they want the product to look very sharp. It has a gloss finish over the top of it. And so we call that dual finish. And it creates that both world. And as such, you're doing two things. You're grabbing somebody's eye as they're walking by as the glossy part kind of flashes at you, but then you pick it up and you feel that richness that's very, very popular today.
All right. So, Jeff, there are a lot of questions coming in the chat. So many, I feel like there's going to be a revolt if I don't ask one of these, which is everyone, what a lot of people are asking about is like, what about smaller sizes for beauty,
Yeah.
for supplements? What are the different things? So maybe you could just give an overview of what are all the different kinds of pouches out there from the smallest to the biggest? Because the people want to know.
Yeah. So I would say by far the most popular pouch today is what we'd call a K seal, or a similar cousin as a bull bottom pouch. So just a seal, it's going to stand up, and that's the predominant uh, product on the marketplace. You get smaller, and maybe you don't need that gusset, and it becomes more like a sachet. Um, those are available, and what's great about all these, almost all of them, they're available as a pre-made. And then if you really take off and people and your co-packer or yourself gets automatic filling equipment, it can transition right into that, and the consumer can't tell the difference. So
Can
a
you
lot
tell me
of
what that means a little bit better? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So most of these products either start out where we're selling an individual bag, right? And they're either hand filled and sealed, or there's machinery. They'll pick them up, open them up, fill the product, and seal them. That's probably the most common right there. But as the volumes get bigger, it may become more economical, particularly if you only have one size pouch, that you actually form the pouch right as you're filling it. And remember, when we were
Oh.
talking about the 1990s, that was really the only way it was available. And that's how it started. But that's a natural transition, just like in the natural transition in printing. You might go from a mock-up to digitally printing quantities, and then as you grow, it can transition to flexographic printing. And the advantage to that is you're getting the same customer experience, but for a really small run, digital printing is much more economical. As you get bigger, um, the flexographic printing, becomes significantly less expensive. So you always want to pick a supply partner that can grow with you like that and transition that way throughout your product's life cycle.
I have so many questions, but I think real quick, just to take a pause, maybe
Yep.
we could just show the slide with your guys' contact info. Probably there are a lot of people already I see in the chat
Okay.
asking to connect with the folks here. So maybe we could go back to the slide that just shows, yes, our
Yep.
friend Troy, very active in the Startup CPG Slack.
Okay.
Thank you. If you have a hostage situation or a packaging question, then he can help you with either one of those. Thank you for putting your cell number. Probably you're getting blown up right now.
Yeah.
But just a reminder, if anyone joined late, like Belmark is one of our favorite partners out there. We love this team. The reason that we partner with them is because they are the most recommended partner, especially in this pouches space, which is so prevalent. And we just love getting to work with them and educate everybody. And all the brands who have gotten to work with them have just been over the moon. So, okay, cool. Maybe back to the visual slide. So Okay, from so like the what is the very smallest pouch out there that somebody might be using working with someone like you?
Um, well, it depends how you look at it. you can go down, and these are very seldomly hand filled, but you can go down to like a stick pack is something that powder is very often used in, and combined with some kind of liquid water or some kind of milk or whatever to create some product that is extraordinarily popular right now. You have sachets that may have uh, may have vitamin supplements in them, may have powders in them, may have creams in them.
Like in
Um,
a like that could so a stick pack, that's good because actually yeah, John was asking about that specifically. Thank you. So a sachet could be like, those like emergency
yes,
mixes. Is that what that is? Like a
that's a
sachet?
stick pack. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay.
perfect
So a
example.
sachet then, what's an
A,
example of a sachet?
a sachet may be like uh, a seasoning mix would be a
Okay.
good example like that. But you also may have a single use towelette, or you may have some single use ointments or creams or
Uh-huh.
makeups. It
Okay.
tends to be a single use product, whereas most of your stand up pouches tend to be repeat use items.
I gotcha. And then maybe what would be the biggest, like a pet food type thing?
Yeah, yeah. Now you're getting beyond our capability, but exactly right. I don't know what they are, 40, 50 pound bag of dry dog food. Quite often those are a pre-made pouch. Uh,
Okay. And then probably, so then these would be typical of like the most common types of pouches then. These like
correct.
kind of mostly probably more stand up than not, but some without the gusset. That's the first time I ever used that word successfully. So there we go. Thanks, Jeff.
And the funny is I've been in the industry so long, I don't even think that's a weird word.
Okay, cool. So let me bring up something without trying to offend any of the brands out there, which is okay. So somebody asked. There we go. Okay, I think this was about like that like natural
We
brown
do.
paper look. It also came up because Kara had asked about eco-friendly and sustainable. I'll tell you, like, my personal pet peeve. First of all, yes, like I know you guys have some sustainable options. Let's talk about that. My personal pet peeve is when I see an early stage brand at a trade show and they're so excited to have their product, but what they're showing is one of those pouches. It looks like they got the pouches off Amazon and then just threw some misaligned label on it. I'm like, whoa, you like spent all the money to come here and you got this product, and it looks like you're barely at a farmer's market. And
Yeah.
that's when I slipped them the Belmark business card.
That's this one with the metal on back. And if you're at a farmer's market, that's probably the way to go. The caution is if you're buying those online, you really don't know what the barrier is, so your shelf life might be compromised. But very, very small quantities, it's not a bad way to put your toe in the water. But like you said, the labels get misaligned. I have this one here, looks pretty good in the front, but then I go to the back and it's wrinkled and it's not straight on the back,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Okay.
doesn't necessarily put the product in the best light. Today, with digital printing, you can get in at pretty small quantities at a competitive price and look like any top notch brand you want to. Um, so I,
And yeah, the MOQs for you guys are very like it's pretty small, right?
we,
Someone
we,
had just
we
asked about that.
yeah, we don't really have them, but I would say you're probably in that 1,000 pouch range that you're getting at a price where you never want the bag to cost more than you can sell your product for, right? And
Yep.
and so 1,000 or 500, pretty small. And then the pricing kind of you get up to 5,000 or 10,000 if it's per item. You're already thinking about, let's compare that to what it costs if we go flexographic. So pretty quickly you can start seeing some savings as you grow your brand. And if you pick the right vendors, that's a seamless transition, and it's just speed to savings, right? You should buy quality packaging, but you should be paying. You should have people that can put you in the right technology to give you the best product at the best price.
Yeah. And I mean, I know it's a balance for founders starting
Yep.
out trying to be scrappy, but
Yep.
I will say, and I can think of some very specific brands who show up with just crappy looking pouches. I'm just like, they're like, well, the price per package, like I can get this a little bit cheaper. I'm like, yeah, but the success of your whole business is
Yeah.
compromised because of that crappy pouch that you have. And even if people don't even like know how to verbalize what's wrong with your product and why they're not going to buy it or rebuy it, that is why. I can tell you it looks bad. And like I always try to tell people, especially at the early stage, like to worry a little bit less about the unit economics of exactly the cost of the packaging. Cause it's almost like at that point, it's not going to matter, because when you scale, it's going to be really different anyways. And just like,
That's exactly right.
but the cost of a bad impression in the early stages is enormous. And so,
The other thing, because quite often people are doing that, are buying those pouches from overseas. So the costs go two ways. I think I kind of hit this before. Either you buy so much that you end up throwing stuff away because you want to change an ingredient, you have to change the size, you have to change something, and you have these pouches that once they're printed one way, that's all they can be used for. But the even bigger cost is your business takes off, and now you got to wait 12 weeks to get pouches.
and
And
yeah,
so you got orders that you can't fill. And then you've been filled it in your nice packaging. Then you go back and buy the uh, warehouse blank bags and throw on a label that maybe you even print yourself um, on there. And it's not congruent with the kind of growth that you had because you had the pre-printed pouch.
you guys are based in Wisconsin, right?
We
That's what
are.
people are asking about that also. And so, I, do brands ever even like come on site? And
Oh, every day we have three or four companies here at least, and so it today, the proofing process can predict what the packaging is going to look like very, very well. But it's good to come on site. One of my favorite things is to go into our customers' businesses because you learn something every time, right? And so on site here outside of Green Bay, we produce flexible packaging, we produce labels, we produce folding cartons, and those are three words that mean a lot of different things. There's thousands of different products that we do based on that. So it's always good to see what capabilities are and talk about your business. And so often, just today, ideas came up by that no one was expecting to happen by just by a normal conversation. And uh, we have a lot of experience that most of the problems people see we've seen before, right? And they're growth related problems. How do I do this? What do I do this? Do you know anybody who does that we don't do? And we do have tremendous resources that way too.
Troy mentioned also the lead times are 3 weeks or
Yeah.
less after artwork approval made in USA,
And,
in Wisconsin.
and I
Um,
always say this: faster if you need it.
yeah, I know, like that's our lead time, but like we'll get it done if it's
Yeah.
important. And I really appreciate that about you guys. Really, like Troy and Cody and everybody who's just been so responsive to brands in our community. You will love these guys if you talk to them. One question just about how some of the learnings that you've seen brands have about how their design actually translates to print on pouch. Like they're there, seeing stuff, and like as it actually goes from, hey, here's the thing I designed, here's how it actually looks when it prints it out. Any learnings around that, like things that people should be cognizant of when they're doing the design and what they should expect when they actually are going to get the physical pouch?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that hits me, the restrictions are way less than they used to be. Number one, so you can do a lot more today. Most of our printed items we produce all what we call try to max, all out of process colors. So there's no limitation to the number of colors you have. So that used to be a big, watch out. The one I would say is the very, very light colors. Your very, very light tan, your very, very light pink, anything like that. Um, that is the most susceptible for any printer to having a little bit of movement, and a little bit of movement means the color can change, particularly in the brand owner's eyes, considerably. And if you got to think about it like this, there may be 1% of color, 1% of pigment in that ink. So if you're off by 50%, you have 1.5% pigment. A tan will change shades. Now we are exceptionally good at keeping that, but if you did that same change in a dark blue, you would never ever notice.
Uh-huh.
But
One so
go ahead.
yeah, one question that came up is around getting like a spec. I think probably for a lot of people, they don't know that you can actually get a pretty reasonable like mock printed through you guys, right? Like you're typically
Yeah.
pretty happy to work with people on samples. How does that actually work? If somebody wants like a proof or a mock up?
Two different ways. If you have an order in the system, we're going to provide you a proof, either online or it may actually be a printed proof that we send you, depending on the print technology. That's going to be included in the cost of the artwork we're doing. If you want, say, 1 to 20 prototypes that maybe you're going to use at sales calls or maybe you're going to use at a trade show, those have a set price. We deliver those in less than a week. And it's not the exact packaging you're going to get, but it is based on what the most popular materials we have. And we can do that for labels. We can do that for any printed film, and we can do that for cartons.
That is good to know.
And
Oh,
Troy can provide that pricing to anybody who wants it.
cool. Troy is in the chat. If you want to talk to him, definitely. Maybe we can post his contact information here also. Again, if anybody wants to email Troy, let's drop that in the chat. By the way, I think I cut us short before when we were talking about the eco-sustainable options. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so there was two questions. One was about craft paper. And yeah, we do produce craft paper, but it's actually less environmentally friendly because you're taking the paper, and to get the barrier and the sealant, you also still have to have the plastic film, right? So it's probably less, it gives the image. Now, quite often what we do is reproduce that craft look with a print design and a soft touch, and it looks and feels the same. And now we're down to, at least we're just in plastic. We're not combining plastic and paper. From a recyclability standpoint, really two directions. One, we have a product we call True Impact, which is at least 30% post-consumer recycled material. So the materials we are using have already been used in packaging, principally water bottles and milk jugs. And bringing those two together, we are taking those out of the waste stream, and we are using those for perfectly good packaging. Today, really hard to tell the difference if you're a consumer, if it's post-consumer or not. Just a year or two ago, you might see a little bumpiness on the packaging, and that was some impurities that didn't completely break down. Barriers are the same, performance is the same, and there you're really taking stuff out of the waste stream. The other thing we can do is what we call eco-ready, and that's the store drop-off program. So customer buys the product. It is all either polyethylene or compatible with polyethylene recycling. And we produced a package that's a little bit softer than the normal packaging. If you're running on automatic equipment, probably a little smaller operating window, but it can be recycled as polyethylene. Again, it's only store drop off. And I do a survey. We do a lot of that product. I do a survey at the stores that are collecting bags. I don't see a whole lot of finished packaging in there, more the bags from the stores themselves. So that is out there. It's available. I don't think the public's quite in tune with that store drop off yet.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, cool. So another question that I have: if you're an early stage founder, maybe your product's not like out in the market, you're working on the recipe for it or whatever, you're thinking about what it's going to go into. If a founder asked me, I would be interested to hear your perspective on this. Like, yeah, how should I figure out the packaging? The designer part of it is one element. Like, great, go to a good designer, branding agency, whatever. They're going to help you in the look and feel. But like, it's really, they might have some packaging expertise, but often they don't really, they're not the experts on it. I would always tell people, go to the store, go to a big store, and go to a store where you feel like you're going to sell your product. If you're trying to sell it in the natural channel, go to a natural channel store, maybe go to Whole Foods and look in the aisle of where your stuff is and look at some of the pouches or packaging options that are out there. What do you like? What do you not like? And why? I think, a lot of time in some categories, for example, people actually shop first by the format of the packaging. Like you might have people who they're like even more than like brand friendly, they're like size friendly. Like, no, I'm looking
Yeah.
for this size of a packaging, or I'm gonna buy, one of these hanging bags of something before I'm gonna go to a lay down bag somewhere else, right? But I like the idea of them just going into the store, really looking at that carefully and thinking about it. So even if you haven't set on an exact format and size yet, you at least can like be at the intersection of that with your designer when you're looking at the packaging and like have some inputs to them. Is that like, but also they can talk to your team, right? Because I know you have like some good examples on your website. You'll have a good brochure and everything. I was on your website. I saw a lovely photo of our friend Cody who works there modeling for your website, but you have some good examples on there. But how do you typically recommend brands who are getting started on that if they don't already know exactly what they want?
Notice we're smart enough to keep me off the website. Yeah, no, that's a perfect idea. Get the general concept of what you want. All right, this is a package, even if it's not in your space necessarily, but this is the package I want to emulate. Or if it is in your space, but I don't want to do this, I want to do that. So what you'll do is then you'd work with a Troy, and we have got a team of about 50 packaging engineers in our different areas, and what they will do is make sure that we're knowing what we know about your product, that we're making sure we have the right barriers to try to keep your product tasting as good as it does the day it's made, or as close to that as possible. And then what we also can do is size it and make up a hand mock-up, which without the label might look a lot like this. So we're going to, by hand, we're going to make the kind of package you want, so that, and if you send us some product, we'll size it. You want an 8-ounce package, we'll give you a proportionate package for an 8-ounce. You also want to see a 4-ounce, we'd give you a different one for that. But you really want to have a concept of that. I want a stand-up pouch, or I want a folding cart, whatever you want. We can take that feedback and help size it, help suggest structures that are going to work well for your product, both from a freshness standpoint, from an appearance standpoint in the store.
One question that's been coming up in the chat a lot is more about like what other resources are you able to help brands with as well? Some people are asking about like designers, which you guys don't do the creative work, right? But they're also asking about like, what about co-mans also, like, because I'm having trouble with mine. Like, are you able to help connect me to ones who do this kind of stuff well? Like, what's in your ecosystem?
Yeah. So the cool thing about us, we've grown over the years. We have about 60 or 70 sales reps coast to coast. And as such, we have independent designers coast to coast. We supply, usually at the choice of our customers, co-mans in every possible industry there is. And so we keep lists. We're not necessarily going to say choose A over B, but we are going to say, here are people that have done a nice job with other customers, and we'll try to align that. Um, I don't want to send you to somebody who only wants to deal with the Fortune 50 companies. I want to send you to a co-man that is in the right spot in your product life cycle too, know how far they can grow to, and give you options that way.
All right. Um, I wonder if like, are there any examples of brands you think just nailed it, and why? Like, yeah, they did this packaging so well because of the design, or because of the format, or a choice that they made, or a size or something. Like, anything that you can cite, like, yes, they are making great packaging choices and it's
Yeah,
helped their
well,
brand scale.
I've held this Wiley Wallaby up from a graphic standpoint. They've done some really neat things. Not only use it soft touch in the gloss, but they have metal in their packaging, and they don't necessarily want the bright shine. So they put a little screen of white and kind of get background images. Like there's a
Oh, there
heart
it
here
is.
that I'm showing.
Oh,
And so
cool.
they've done some neat things. Um, Depending on what you want to do, um, you can do things like rounded corners to kind of give it a nicer look. Some people don't care that at the edge of the packaging here, in this case, there's a little clear stripe.
Uh-huh.
It could be a white stripe or a metallized stripe. We can cut that off. It gives it a little cleaner look, lets the graphics go all the way to the side. Um, there's it's how you layer these things together. What kind of zipper you use to make it, uh, reseal nice. There's something called a laser score, especially for a thicker package, and especially for a package that people are going to want to eat while they're driving in the car. you got to make it easy to eat, or easy to open rather. So we put a little laser score at the top, and you get
Yep.
a nice clean. Instead of, we've all seen that rough edge, and then every time we open our cabinet, you see that rough edge. It looks sloppy. But I was able to open that, and if I was driving a car, I wouldn't have crashed it because I wasn't fighting with it. So there's all sorts of little things to make the experience for the consumer better.
Yeah. And I was just thinking even about like whether you have a gusset or not a gusset, depending on what your product is like. If it's like filmy in there, like maybe you want the space. So when you put your hand in when you're in the car, it's not coming out just covered in stuff from your product, right?
Yeah, so
Um,
sometimes those are the best products, though.
yeah. Um, and just a question, how would everyone know about all those options like rounded edges and all that stuff? Would that be in like a catalog that you would review, or is that more like they need to actually just go and look at all the examples out there and be able to tell you about some of those preferences?
I think that that's where our folks like Troy come in handy. They're going to have a conversation with you and ask you what you're looking for, what you like, and be able to provide you samples of what we've done. And yeah, hey, what's this up here? I really like this rounded corner instead of that sharp hard edge. And it just depends what you're looking for. But that's Troy's job is to uh, really try it and understand your business, how you're going to market, what you're trying to represent, and make suggestions that can help you get there.
All right. What are some other questions that people often are coming asking you, whether it's the beginning of their journey or as they mature as a brand and things they're trying to optimize as they grow with you? I feel like we've gotten a lot of the good questions here in the chat because Troy is in there just knocking them all out. People are throwing them off. He's knocking all these questions out.
We've got him hidden in the closet working. That's
Yeah.
a good thing. A lot of it is about that scalability. How can I? Because maybe they've gotten themselves in a position where they started off with a digital printer and they were running 2,000 bags, and now they're running 100,000 bags, and they don't understand why their price hasn't gone down very much at all. And really, it should go down pretty dramatically. How do we scale? How do we make that simple? I don't want to go back and have to do all that starting over homework again. That's one of you want to deal with the packaging as least as you can, because of all the ingredients you buy, of all the things you buy, it's the one that's the most custom. So you want to be able to get it right and work with a partner that can help take some of that work off your desk as you grow, as you want to make changes. That they have to have the firepower to help support you, and they can't be in a position where the size of your business or where you're at in business it's not congruent with what they're trying to do. And so we set out 50 years ago to sell privately held companies, and we still have that, as 99.9% of our customers are either privately held or private equity held, and that's very intentional, because the needs of that customer base are changing, and they're the customers that change the marketplace.
Yeah.
You guys can come up with ideas and institute them in a fraction of the time that the major brands do.
Okay. So looking at all these packages, I'm going to go off script a little bit here. And I wonder if there's anybody out here in the audience right now who has their product in a pouch and wants to show it to us. If you want to, then grab the pouch, and then there's a button at the bottom that says request call in. So if long shot, but if anybody out there has their product in a pouch and wants to show it to us, maybe you can tell us if you want us just to be like, we love it. Or if you actually want some feedback on it from a technical standpoint, you bring it up. So there's a button at the bottom where you can request call in. So we'll just give a minute to see if anybody wants to be brave and show us their packaging. But while we're talking about that, so Jeff, what are the biggest mistakes you see? For me, it would be like, oh, somebody tried to save some money and went with a supplier that was not so great, and now they're paying for it because the product quality is not staying intact or something like that.
Yeah, and I think not having an alignment with your supply chain and what your customer base is looking for. And the number one, there's probably two big areas that hits that minimum order quantity, but also that speed to react is really important because you get all this momentum going and you're selling and maybe you land a retail outlet or something where your sales spike. You don't have the ability to react to it. Sometimes you only get one of those chances to attack that. From a packaging functionality, from an appearance, I think I'd go farther back. And today, though, the world's designing pretty good packaging. The graphics seem to be a lot better. All over the board in terms of the graphics, depending on who the audience they're trying to communicate to and what they want to say about their product. So that area I think has gotten much improved, certainly in the time I've been doing this.
All right. And I wonder, I know we have one of those slides showing like the history of Belmark. Can we pull that one up for a second? Yeah, there we go.
So these are some old photos. So Belmark started in 1977. Yeah. The guy cutting the ribbon and sitting there is Bruce Bell. He's our founder, still our chairman of the board, 92 years old. And in the summer, he's at work just about every day. So it's fun. We are still owned by the family. Carl Schmidt's son-in-law is our president and CEO. And I'm working really close with the third generation, Andrew Schmidt, who's a sales manager for us now and going to take on more responsibility as time goes on. But we are committed to staying privately held. You see and you read about the private equity crunches and the inability to reinvest in technology that's changing, that's going to drive better products and better efficiency for our customers. So we're committed. We got the plan in place to stay privately held and reinvest in all the time. We are Wisconsin based, but we also have a facility in Phoenix, Arizona, and our 9th plant, which will be our 4th flexible packaging plant, will open in Scottsville, Kentucky this fall.
All right. We've got Katie is our first taker to show your packaging SYP. So let's see the pouch that you got. Yeah.
Can you hear me? So I own Full Moon Tea Company. This is my tea. So I have 8 core blends right now. This is 2 of the best sellers. And then I do a seasonal every 3 months that rotates.
Cool.
These are 5x7 by 3, 3-inch gusset, metallized, soft touch. So I originally ordered from EPAC just because I knew them by reputation. And about a year ago, they increased their minimum order and made it feel like they were doing me a favor by even offering 5,000. And it really felt like they weren't supporting small businesses, because even 5,000 bags is a stretch for a growing business like mine. So I did some research and I ended up moving to the packaging lab, who's printed these. And the things that I loved about them is that they have a really fast turnaround, great customer service, low minimum order quantity, and the saturation on the colors is really beautiful. These really pop when they're on the shelf, and I love that. But I feel like this material is a little thinner than I want it to be. So when they're on the shelf, sometimes the little neck wants to bend backwards, forwards, and it doesn't look great. So that's why I'm here today, is just to investigate like what options are out there for me for a company that still has the low minimum order quantities and good customer service and fast turnaround with competitive pricing, but that would have more film options to have the same, the soft touch, the metallized, and size options, but would be able to make them a little bit thicker so that they stand up a little better and the necks don't bend. Yeah, that's me.
All right. Cool. All right. Thanks, Katie. I'm going to pop you backstage here. Thank you. I love your brand approach and everything. The tea looks cool. Also, on behalf of Belmark, I'm going to offer you from them without their authorization that they will get you a sample that will be better than what you have now. I promise. And they have the best customer service.
Great looking packaging. And you're absolutely right. It looks great. It better look great while it's out in distribution. So if it's falling over, if it's If it slumps down like I do, that's not a good thing for the packaging. Uh, so absolutely, just shoot Troy a note, and we'll get you some products that we do. We'll concentrate on stuff that's available in our digital offering, because that's to fit at those quantity levels. And uh, I know we will be competitive price wise and speed wise, no doubt.
I love it. All right. So get in touch with Troy, Katie, and he will get you a mock up and it will solve all of your problems. And thank you for joining us on the stage. We love that. Jeff, because I wanted to ask a question about the future of pouches also. If we can look into Jeff's pouch crystal ball, if that means it's a pouch, but it has a window so we can see in the middle. So it has the crystal ball in there. What do we see in the future of pouches? What kind of innovations could there be in terms of, printing capability or preservation of the product, or, just what features or what are innovative brands going to try to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think more things are going to happen tactilely. So I think not so much today, but I always look at what you see in labels, what you see in shrink sleeves today are eventually going to make their way to flexible packaging. And so you may have an embellished feature where you got a raised surface on the packaging that creates some interest and technology. I think you're going to see continued development on better options that are truly environmentally friendly, while keeping the products fresh and looking good on the shelf. To date, other than the post-consumer recycle, there's always been a trade-off, right? And I think those trade-offs get smaller and smaller, and then new things get offered. From a print standpoint, today you can print just about, the colors and variety is so
Yeah.
off the wall. You have things like have existed. They're not really in our bailiwick, but for liquids, things like spouts, or maybe for later today, it's a frozen hurricane that goes in so it fits your hand right there.
That's perfect for sneaking into a concert or something.
Yeah, last Tuesday would have been really good on Fat Tuesday.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So all those kind of things, and where do those come from? Where do they ever come from us? Is requests from the customer base. Hey, I'd like to do this. And it can seem completely off the wall, and it may not be doable today, or maybe it is, but that's what drives the innovation for tomorrow.
That's really amazing, just to think about what else can go into that packaging, and nice just to think about the sustainability innovations that will come as well, where there's always a balance of that plus the whatever price point is actually feasible for the brand as well. But that is awesome. So Jeff, I think I'm going to wrap us up here. Thank you to everybody for all of this engagement and all these questions. Obviously on the screen here, you can see how to get in touch with Troy. If you want to ask any questions, they are very nice. They will help you with everything. And if they can't help you, they will try to get you to the person who can help you. That's what we love about working with Belmark, is they're just good people that we love to have as part of the community. I'm sure you guys all picked up on that through the course of this webinar. But thank you guys for being our friends and partners, and also just all of the help that you really give to brands at the early stage, because there's nothing like having a partner who will actually bend over backwards to work with you at the early stages, get you into good shape, like get your product looking good from day one. Because that is what I want for brands. Is you have this idea, maybe you quit your job and you're all in on this. Your dream is to get into Whole Foods. Please don't go up to them with like a product in a plastic baggie and think that they're going to be blown away by just the sample that you have. Like, they're not. You need the whole package. They need to be able to see that it's going to sell on shelf and do well. I really encourage everybody to just overinvest a little bit in some professional looking packaging, help give them the vision of where it can go, where you see it going. And Belmark, thank you for being people who can get brands there, especially at the early stages. Anything to wrap us up with, Jeff? Any final thoughts?
No, thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for coming. The one thing I will guarantee you, Troy does not look that stressed. So as the picture, so he's there to happy to help you, and he's got a whole team there with him. That if you have any questions, you have any ideas, we have the firepower to help you out.
All right. For anybody attending our Chicago grocery run, the Belmark team will be there in force, since it is nice and close to their HQ as well. And you can always see them at tons of our events, and their sales team they will help you. They can be really your like ombudsman to helping make tons of decisions because they've done it all. So definitely get in touch with them. We have a test just pasted a link as well if you prefer to go to the website. But thank you guys. Jeff, what a good time. Thank you everyone for joining. And the recording will be available on our YouTube page. So if you want to rewatch it, I just posted the link there, and you can just go and subscribe and you'll get a notification when it loads up. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you again, Troy and Cody, everyone who's been really active in the Slack community. And we will see you guys when you have your products in some beautiful pouches very soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.